Okay, so it looks like Harry Kane's going to leave Tottenham. According to Sky Sports and all the big outlets, it looks like he's going to leave. And yeah, obviously it's been the big story of the day. But to be honest, I'm not really that interested in that. What personally I find more interesting is how Tottenham move on from Harry Kane, because look, obviously Harry Kane's a world class striker and he's amazing, but they're going to have to move on at some point. And it feels like now is not a bad time to do it given COVID and Harry Kane's at he's probably his max value. But to be honest, I don't think it would be a big issue for Spurs. If you look at the table, this is considering Harry Kane's had the best season of his life. Obviously, they're sixth, right, which isn't great in itself, but they're overperforming. Expected points has them at 51 points, which would put them 10th. And that's below Arsenal's expected points, by the way. And we all know how terrible Arsenal are. So personally, I don't think, although obviously it'd be terrible to lose Kane, I think if they invest the money properly, it wouldn't actually be the worst thing for them. Now, if you look at Tottenham, by the way, subscribe to the channel, Football Appreciation, banging channel. There'll be more videos coming out, subscribe. But the first thing I see when I look at this Tottenham lineup is a back three, personally. Mourinho constantly went with this 4-2-3-1 and kind of Ryan Mason's not really changed it. But personally, I think a three at the back would suit this perfectly. All their centre-backs are quite slow and not really mobile. I look at all of their full-backs, bar Ben Davies, and they're all wing-backs to me. I think Lo Celso and Ndombele could easily play in a midfield too. And I think all their forwards are fine and good pressers. So I think I look at back five personally. This is how I'd set it up with their current squad. I think it would work really well. I think just doing this would help them a lot. I think Ben Davies would be a good left centre back. I think Alderweireld and Dyer, whether you like them or not, they're good in the middle of a back three. I think all their midfielders are good enough to play in the midfield too. And look, Oliver Skip's kind of a gamble, but I don't really have. I'm kind of giving myself like 100 million here, maybe 120 mil. So I've kind of had to take a few risks. And I've brought Ryan Sessegnon and Juan Foyth back. Now, Ryan Sessegnon's been pretty good for Hoffenheim, and Tottenham spent 25 million on this kid, and he's still only 21. It's actually his birthday today. But his pressures are really good. He's been playing in this system at Hoffenheim, and to me, it makes sense to get some use out of him. Same with Juan Foyth. I think everyone who watched Arsenal versus Villarreal saw how good he was. His numbers are really good, albeit limited minutes. He's only played about 1,000 minutes in La Liga, but he's a really good passer. He's a good dribbler. He's quick. I don't see why he couldn't be a backup right back, personally. So this is the team I've kind of done right now. I've added 2 centre backs and 2 strikers. Now, I haven't really touched the fullbacks. I think Sessegnon and Foyth are good enough cover, and I think Matt Doherty kind of thrives in the back 5. I think Son, Bergwijn, Ali and Lucas are good enough for your wide options or kind of your support forwards. And I think Lloris is a fine goalkeeper. I don't think Lloris is anywhere as bad as people say he is. So that kind of left me with 2 centre-backs and 2 strikers. So the first centre-back I went for was Nikola Milenkovic. Now, Fiorentina have had a terrible season. And I think they'd be willing to let Milenkovic go if you paid like 25 mil, maybe 30 mil. Now, he's a good threat from set pieces. He's pretty decent on the ball. He's good in the air. He's really highly rated by everyone in Serie A. This one's kind of a bit more a risk for me, but I kind of wanted 2 centre-backs. And he's kind of like more of my risks centre-back. He's big. He's strong. To me, Nikola Milenkovic, he also can play right back as well. But this one just makes sense for me. And I think he'd be really good in the back 3. And then I've gone for Sven Botman. Now, he's been linked with pretty much every club in Europe, right? So I don't know if Tottenham would be able to get him. But the main reason I've gone for him is because he's left-footed and he's a good passer, right? Now, I think Ben Davies would be a good left centre-back, but he's so injury-prone that I feel like I needed to add someone there. And I think Alderweireld and Dyer are good in the middle, especially Alderweireld. I think being in the middle of the back 3, so even if you're slow and old like Alderweireld is, it kind of works. Like we've all seen how Connor Cody plays that role, or Thiago Silva at Chelsea. So I think Milenkovic and Davinson Sanchez could push each other for that right centre-back, and then Botman and Davis for the more ball-playing centre-back kind of role, whereas Milenkovic and Sanchez can kind of be the quick, aggressive one, kind of like Rudiger at Chelsea, and then Botman and Davis can kind of be like the Azpilicueta. That was kind of my thinking of it. I think Dele Alli's class, and I think Lucas is fine. Obviously, Son and Bergwijn are good. So I kind of wanted 2 strikers to replace Kane. Now, I've gone with Danny Ings to kind of be my second choice striker. Now, look, I don't rate Danny Ings really highly, but he's out of contract. Tottenham probably had to get him for like 20 mil, maybe 25 mil. I think Southampton kind of have to sell him. 12 goals, 4 assists in 2,000 minutes. That's 15 goal contributions in 2,000 minutes. He's a proven Premier League striker. I think he'd be happy to sit on the bench. He's a good passer. He's a decent dribbler. He's a good defender from the front. The only thing that would worry me about him is his injury record, and that he's not a great hold-up guy, especially if you're playing this, kind of back three system where you need kind of the striker to be a good hold-up guy. But I think he'd be a perfectly good backup guy to Andre Silva. Now, Andre Silva's a guy that's had a weird career because, he went to Sevilla, he went to AC Milan, it kind of didn't work out. And I completely understand that at Eintracht Frankfurt under Adi Hütter, like, strikers just kind of go supernova. Like, it's happened with Rebic, Haller, and, who's the other one? Luka Jovic, right? But he's genuinely, like, for non-penalty XG, he's in the top 3% in Europe. He's a really good progressive passer as well, or he receives good progressive passes, and he gets on the ball constantly. He's pretty good in the air as well for someone that's, I think he's 5'10", and his numbers are ridiculous. He's got a decent bit of height about him. He's quick, and he's attainable. Like, I'd love to go and say they could go and get like Erling Haaland or something, but they're not going to be able to. Tottenham needs to be realistic, and they need to bulk out this squad. And I think if you go and get a good young manager and kind of play more experimental football, you get some good centre backs in there. You kind of trust Juan Foyth and Ryan Sessegnon, and then you maybe buy an Andre Silva. Look, I'm not saying this will win Tottenham the league, but I think Botman will probably cost 30 mil, same with Milankovic. And then probably Silva and Danny Ings will cost the same, so that's about, 120 mil? Let's say 140. And look, obviously they're not as good as Harry Kane, but I think having two strikers is better than none. And having two good centre-backs would honestly help them so much. They need to get their full-backs up the pitch, because Doherty and Reguilon are good full-backs. They are good wing-backs. And I think this system would get the best out of someone like Tanguy and Ndombele. Personally, I love Tanguy and Ndombele. I love Lo Celso. They're great. They're such good all-round midfielders that I trust them to kind of play this role. And I think you could kind of, like, I don't know how good Oliver Skip is, but he's been good at Norwich. And I kind of trust him to kind of just be a kind of rotation guy for Højbjerg. Obviously, long-term, you need to replace Alderweireld, you need to replace Lloris, you need to replace Matt Doherty. You need to maybe even replace Lucas Moura long-term. But I think this is probably the best way that Tottenham could move forward without Harry Kane. I think if you get the recruitment right and you kind of improve the whole squad instead of just going and getting, like, I don't know, Mauro Icardi or something, or I don't really know who else Tottenham could get out front really, but I think spend the money correctly, move it around the squad, get a young progressive manager. Look, I know people don't like Graham Potter because they think he's boring, but I think if you gave Graham Potter this squad, he'd play this formation, or maybe Adi Hütter, or just go and get a good young manager who knows what he's doing, who will let these players thrive. People like Ndombele, Reguilon, even Dele Alli, these are players that need to thrive. Like, just let them play. There's so much talent in this Tottenham squad. Like, they shouldn't be sixth in the league. They probably have the fourth best squad in the Premier League, and they're playing like the 10th best squad, and that's ridiculous. And that doesn't just happen overnight. For me, that's very much Mourinho symptoms. Like, if you look at this squad, right, this is their squad from this season. I'm not saying that this one I've created is much better. Like, if anything, it's probably equal because of the Kane drop-off. But the defence is definitely better. I think the midfield would work better in a 2. The fullbacks would push up more, which would get more use for them than this formation. And I think having 2 natural strikers who are both Premier League quality is better than having one world-class guy who's quite injury-prone in 28. That's just how I see it anyway. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think they can risk getting rid of Kane or not? Subscribe to the channel. And peace.